Guys, welcome to Beers and Breakevens, back for 2024, coming to you live from the CBA Centre of Excellence. Joining me once again for another season, a season of redemption, we're calling it, for young Wimmy Williams. Welcome in, mate.
It's good to be back, mate. First and foremost, let's kick it off. Roos Studios, the CBA Centre of Excellence. You've done a pretty banging job. It's early days. There's a bit to come, and it's a big studio. About 14 different sets you've got sorted for it, and took me a bit to get in today. Got through the security on the door, got my stamp, paid my entry. Hour and a half, 2 hours. They said not a minute longer, and then I'm out. But you've done all right.
Yeah, it's good, mate. We've got Ruben Cotter sitting over there on the lounge. Sia Wong's playing Big Buck Hunter out there. just all keeping it low-key out there for the big recording of the debut show. How good is it to be back?
It's so good to be back, mate. It's been an awesome cricket season, covering all the Big Bash and all those good things, but back talking rugby league for the new year, and in particular NRL SuperCoach, where the passion lies, along with the SuperCoach Big Bash, but we love our NRL SuperCoach. It's, as you said, it's a redemption year. Got some work to do. I can't face 3 in a row. So yeah.
In all seriousness, is there any threat of you winning a championship this year?
Well, mate, I've taken the high road in the last couple of years, and you've taken advantage of my good nature. I give you your trade advice. I tell you what to do with your team. I essentially do your trades for you. Thursday night, 7 p.m, you're calling me. I'm trying to sort out my own team, and you say, mate, should I do this or this? And I'm happy to tell you, mate, like, we've got a show together. You know, you're a good mate of mine. Pains me to say it a little bit, but you are, and I'm happy to help out. But, you throw it back in my face 2 years in a row by, I think year one, you got me by all of about 30 points overall, which is remarkable. Last year, it was a Tolatau Cola masterclass last 2 rounds, and you got me those last couple of weeks of last year. But this year, the friendship's out the window. I'm going to stop looking after you because I'm sick of your arrogance, and yeah, let's go.
So are you officially announcing 2024 there's no more excuses? Because I'm sick of them, to be completely honest with you.
Guru, there's always excuses. And there's always room to make up new ones.
Now, speaking of new people and, people trying very hard and whatnot, we have got someone new joining us this season who will be announced in a couple of weeks, the Rook.
The Rook.
Now, the Rook's had a rocky start, to be fair.
Yeah.
The Rooks are... It's been rocky. We'll leave it at that. But I'm confident the Rook comes good this season. I'm backing the Rook in to beat you. I'd love a betting market on it.
Rattled early, the Rook, and that's okay. Everyone has their... I'm a slow starter at SuperCoach. The Rook could be a slow starter this year. We'll see. And look, if said Rook wants to take my advice this year and follow my trades, just like you have the last 2 years, very well could beat me. Does the Rook want to take the high road and do some of the own trades and all that? I don't know. Matty Buxton reminds me of a Wish version of the Rook too. Yeah. Rooks generally improve. Matty Buxton is kind of stagnated in Rook territory.
And we're better to bring the Rook up than the CBA Centre of Excellence, following in the footsteps of some of the greats. Isaac Tungo, the Samoan Reg Gaznia, Ruben Cotter, origin out of nowhere, and of course Jaman Hopgood, one of the greats.
Yeah, surely at some point you've got to have, like, across the walls, just these golden plaques, the equivalent of the platinum albums of the graduates from the CBA, and just across the walls. I think it'd be a good touch.
Yeah, I collected some hair off Jermaine Hopgood the other day, so I've got that in a bag somewhere to put up. And
next to your bed.
Next to my bed. Yeah, exciting times. But Beers and Breakevens, we are back for season 2024. Today's episode, bit of a vibe.
Yeah.
We're sort of just going to dip our toe into the pool. Some lessons we learned from last year. We both learned a lot of lessons from last year. I think I'm not one to toot our own horn, but I'm about to toot away. I think we had a lot of lessons reconfirmed last year as well, which we'll touch on, especially in the back end of the season. We're going to then go through a couple of eye catches from the preseason, and then a couple of guys that, in our opinions, are potentially getting a little bit too much hype. So, heap to get stuck into. Do you want to take us through a lesson or something that stands out from you from 2023, mate?
Yeah, exciting times, mate, at one, obviously, and we'll be vibing it quite hard. Obviously, had to look through the fact NRL SuperCoach doesn't officially launch. It's generally about Australia Day each year where everyone gets access to the game. Pardon me. So, as you can see, 12 months
Good
on.
that some things don't
I was
change.
gonna
It's
say,
fantastic to see.
Something's never changed. With these morning recordings, the poor old throat, that's an improving factor this year.
It's 11 a.m. for those playing at home, so it's almost midday.
Early morning. Coming off a big, I said, cricket season, content-wise, gone through all the players, all the prices, all that, but the next week or so, SC Playbook in particular, the content's going to launch hard, predicted 17s, all those good things to just get a head around it. So we are going to vibe it. And what we learnt from last year, mate, one thing that has come up for me big time the last 2 seasons, one of them being a telling factor, and you dust me up last year, another one probably heard us the year before. I'm very conservative in trading in and out players with injury risk.
Yep.
And I think I've been a little too conservative with that the past couple of seasons. And there are some key examples of that. 2 years ago, Latrell Mitchell killed us that back end of the year. He came back from injury. He had a tough draw, and we sort of just said, look, coming up against these tough teams, it's going to take a bit of time to find his feet. Concern there, came out and killed it. Kalen Ponga hurt me last year because I was concerned about his injury history, in particular the concussions and all of that. Nico Hines, one of your best, mate, about round 5 last year, and we avoided him last year coming back from a calf injury because I think he had a game coming back from injury and then a bye, and we sort of said, look, he's coming back from a calf injury. It's going to take time. He's not going to hit the ground running. He did with about 180-point score or something.
I think that I just flat out said he sucks and you shouldn't go anywhere
something
near
like
him
that.
forever,
Yeah,
from memory. Yeah,
you win some, you lose more. But the way I'm just going to approach it this year is I think the reality is it's a long season with these star players. Clubs aren't going to risk them if they think there is a high chance of aggravating any injuries or anything like that. So when I say that I'm going to
unless you're the Dragons.
Yeah. Well, there's also a time and place for that. If you're a team that is decimated by injuries and they're struggling to get a strong squad out there, you might have to. Or if it's the back end of the year and you're trying to win a game to make finals, they're going to play them. There's different time and place for it, but generally speaking. And when I say that I'm going to be a little bit less cautious around players returning from injury, high upside guys. So it's the blokes like the 3 that I mentioned, Ponga, Nico Hines, Latrell Mitchell, who they can come out and score their 150 pluses and really hurt you. Not only does it hurt you on the scoreboard, but their price can get out of range really quickly, which has happened to me in recent years. So if it's a guy who's going to come out and punch out their 60 to 80 and they might make a little bit of cash and score okay, I will 100% avoid that injury risk and not go near them. But those high upside guys, I need to take a little bit more of a gamble and probably put a bit more faith in the clubs that, they can look after these guys.
I think we're an interesting mix like that you're notoriously more of a safer Supercoach player. I notoriously take more risks.
Sure.
And I personally think we both probably need to meet a little bit more in the middle. I mean, at the end of the day, in hindsight, the Kohler move is fucking fantastic. But if he would have come out and just averaged what he's averaged the last few years and gone 40-40, it's a completely different conversation all of a sudden, which is where the risk paid off that time. But if it wouldn't have, it's a completely different fucking story.
He could have gone 30-30 and shot your season.
Yeah.
That being said, it was a very calculated gamble.
Yes, yeah.
And it paid off. But yeah, exactly right.
But there was plenty that I took throughout the season that weren't overly calculated. I don't want to put the spotlight on anyone in particular. No Dragons fullbacks or Melbourne Storm replacement fullbacks that came in for 24 hours. But there were a number of bed shits throughout the year that I probably didn't need to do.
One thing that you said to me pre-show, I was really happy to hear. I said, still at a decent price. I go, mate, Kohler's got to be on your radar for round 1 this year. And you said, no, he's not. And I said, you're learning. I said, you're thinking with your head and not your heart for the first time, as far as I'm concerned. So it's good to see your evolution.
Kohler will forever be immortalised in the Beers and Breakevens Chronicles. Yep. But, not for me to start the season. Mate, I think obviously coming off the back of last season, just having trades at the back end. And we harped on about this all fucking season. And it blew me away, to be honest with you, Timmy, how many people got to the back end of the season and were shocked that players were getting rested. like how you don't see that coming is beyond me. Like you have to prepare for it. You have to be ready for it. Players that are scoring well in SuperCoach shock me. They tend to be good players. Shock me. Good players tend to be in good teams. Sort your shit out. Prepare for it. Be ready for it. And I personally think we spoke about it at the end of last year as well. By the time we got to the last round, the Warriors, they rested players. Everyone blew up about that. In what world were the Warriors? We said it all fucking
It's coming
season.
from a mile away.
Oh, mate, and everyone told me, the coach said this, the coach said that. Good as gold. The coach would be a complete and utter fucking moron to send everyone to Brisbane before they play Penrith the week before. Just apply some common sense and think it through. I personally think most of us got away with it pretty well at the end of last season because the Panthers didn't rest players in the last week.
Yeah.
The other top 4 teams did, as they fucking should. We need to be prepared for this.
Yeah, it'll be rinse and repeat for me throughout the preseason, and any sort of longer-term Beers and Breakevens listeners, SC Playbook listeners will know I harp on over and over again about playing the long game. And that long game is around building depth in your squad, building team value, and having numbers, importantly, for the back end of the season. And I had my worst SuperCoach season by a mile in a long time. Last year I finished pretty well 4,000 on the dot. But the last 2 weeks when there were restings and injuries and people had no trades left, and I had catered for this a little bit better than most with, some trades up the sleeve for emergencies and that period of the year, I made some big inroads those final 2 rounds. Yep. It could have been disastrous had I not done so. You flew those last few rounds. Off the back of Toltale Cola, we both got Cherry Evans in, who went really big because we had trades up the sleeve.
Yep.
And Cola sent you from like 4,000 to like 1,500 or something in the space of 2 weeks. Some other good players as well, obviously, but he was the big one because you had that trade up your sleeve. He had 2 remarkably good matchups with Manly. And, my approach to SuperCoach isn't going to change much this year because, what I've done last 4, 5, 6 years has worked well and I'm happy with it, but there's always tweaks and you can always learn from it. One thing that will not be changing is my approach to playing the long game. And again, I'll speak about it throughout the preseason, but I will more than likely, like I do every year, take a hit early because I build a wider, stronger squad of 25 players rather than going hard at those 17. And it'll pay off in the long run.
I had a really interesting conversation with a guy the other day, and I think it's something worth considering as well that, when we're doing Beers and Breakevens here, we will tend to save trades for the back end. And he said to me, he goes, it's really hard because I'm always consuming SuperCoach content because there's so many people out there producing fantastic content. And he said to me, I think that sometimes content creators tend to use trades earlier because it's entertaining. It's all that sort of stuff. And he goes, I have been caught in that trap before. And he said I like the way that you guys stick to your plan, stick to your process and play the whole 27 rounds, and we came home strong last year, which I'm confident we will come home strong again this year. So something to just keep in mind. Don't get taken up by the trades every single week, all the entertainment and all that sort of shit that comes out of it. Just stick to your plan. I think it is very evident you don't win SuperCoach early.
Yeah.
You avoid catastrophes early, but you win it late. Yeah,
look, mate, we're in a very fortunate position. We can sit here and have a bit of a yarn about footy and about SuperCoach, and hopefully along the way we can provide a bit of entertainment and help people with their teams and their trades. But at the end of the day, I am a competitive prick by nature, and I'm here to get my SuperCoach side as highly ranked as I can at the end of the year, and I'm not going to burn terrible trades throughout the year as a result of getting a few extra 100%. Listens on the podcast. So I like the trades that I say at the end of the show each week and leading into it. Sure, they might change leading into the round because we get new information across a Wednesday, across a Thursday, across a Friday. But I'm as transparent as I can be because that's what I'm doing. And if that's saving trade, it'll happen again. I'll be saving trades throughout the year.
100%, yeah. And I'm exactly the same. I don't like you and I want to beat you.
Yeah, I mean, this year more than ever after 2 years of getting done and dusted, I'm like, there'll be no holding back, mate.
Don't call it a dynasty. All
Jesus.
right, mate, something else that I think I learnt last year, and to be fair to us, I think we did sort of say it in last year's preseason. We sort of thought that the panic around buys was going to be a little bit overrated, and I personally think it was massively overrated. What are your thoughts?
Overrated, yes, not massively overrated. I think, look, again, if you've got squad depth and you've got 25 active players, you can cover a week where a popular team like the Penrith Panthers, where you might have 3 or 4 players from, when they have the bye, if you've got 25 active players, you can cover it fine. If you go too hard and you have, cheapies who may or may not play, and then blokes getting injured, all sorts of things, and you don't build this depth, well, you're going to struggle on the week to week buys, because when a team with 3 or 4 of your players is out, you'll be short on numbers, you'll be short on quality. But yeah, it was great the first year in a long, long time where there'd been a bye every single week of the round in years, how that all played out. And yeah, you don't need to stress too much about it, but at the same time, there was importance for me.
Yeah, I think people overplayed it a little bit. I think people over worried about it. And you know what? Maybe fair. Maybe we just managed it well. But looking back, I really don't remember any time where the buys cost me.
Well, you're short
that much.
Yeah.
So maybe we did manage for it. But yeah, I think that people are over panicking. I think like early rounds, it's important, especially round 1, like Tigers round 1 bye. Thank fuck there's not many relevant players at the Tigers.
God, it's the
Bro, could you imagine if the Raiders had the round 1 bye and we're trying to work out who all these cheapies are? That would be very tough. I guess this season, mate, especially the start's going to be very interesting. Las Vegas, team list over 2 weeks. Are you assuming that the Tuesday before Vegas we get the 4 team lists? Yeah. Those players go to Vegas, they get locked, then we get the rest of the team list?
Yeah, I'm thinking that's how it'll play out. And look, I haven't thought through it thoroughly how it's going to impact SuperCoach. As you said, 4 teams, a squad of 25, you might have 5 players from those teams. The thing about those teams is they're strong NRL teams, they're strong SuperCoach teams. Yeah. So that's the impact. If they were dud sides, you'd be like, all right, not too much is going to change, but they're good sides. So we might have 5 to 6 lock into our teams.
Yep.
I'll need to sit through and work through it all a lot more in coming weeks to really get a grasp on how it's going to impact our early teams. But as I said, when those players are locked, then we get the following team list the next Tuesday. I don't think it'll be too big an impact, will it?
I think it'll just be interesting to see. Manly, I'm not overly concerned with. I don't think anyone really jumps out of the ground there. The Brisbane Broncos are interesting. I think that we will all end up with a Broncos front row forward in our SuperCoach side. There's a couple of guys to choose from there, which we'll talk about today. That'll be one interesting spot. And if you pick the wrong one there, because, there could be guys that are named to start in Vegas. They get to Vegas and they end up playing the first 25 minutes and don't come back on. And then all of a sudden you've wasted one of your front row forward spots. The Roosters back row is going to be super interesting.
Very interesting.
Because I assume someone's going to be named a partner, Nat Butcher. We're probably all going to buy that person. Once again, might get over to Vegas and they play 45 minutes and then come on as a middle forward later. And not only are we completely fucked in that Rooster spot, when we get to the next Tuesday and there's 8 really good second rowers that present yourselves, you can't get them all because you've used a spot on a Chook's back rower. South Sydney, once again, back rowers. If Tallis Duncan's named to start the back row and we all want to buy him, we get there and he plays 45 minutes, we're in trouble again. So, yeah, there are a few interesting points going over to Las Vegas that I don't think it's going to be catastrophic, but I think it could get hairy if it all doesn't go to plan.
I think realistically, it'll be, where possible, try and avoid those teams because, as you said, we don't get a look at the team list. So, if you lock in 4, 5, 6 players, what are you missing out on from team list the following week? So you want to stay as flexible as you can for that following week. The other thing is, and we've sort of spoken about it off air a fair bit, just the toll that's going to take on these players. They obviously have, that's round 0, the 2 games. Round 1, there'll be 6 games, and the teams in Vegas have the bye. They'll have that extra week to rest, but it's a bloody long flight over to Vegas. Let's call it what it is. They're going to be hooting and hollering on the piss over there. It's going to be a big week or however long they're over there for, and I'd be surprised if it didn't take a bit of a toll. When we do get into the nitty-gritty of it, it's a smaller field they're playing on. Is it 5 metres smaller
Mate,
or
it's
something?
5 metres thinner. That's massive. Like for me, I will not be even looking at a captain or a VC of a like strike player over there. Forward, I can maybe understand it.
Yeah, the work rate's going to go through the roof. You would expect off the back of that probably less points early in the year, possibly a forward, especially maybe a cheeky little maybe not a VC for a forward. But again, another impact. As I said, the problem is they're 4 good NRL teams with SuperCoach upside, so it'll be very interesting.
I don't hate the VC in Vegas. I probably won't do it myself, but I can understand your logic if you do. Can you imagine the base stats? Your Payne Haas's, your Nat Butchers, these sort of guys of the world, your Cam Murrays are going to get over there.
Cam Murray could be 100% VC'd. When everyone buys him in round 1.
It could be very interesting. You'll also get, and you have a look at round 1 scores over the last couple of years. Like these big time players are always lower than their season average. I went through it the other day. Like it's the first 4 weeks, it's always a very tight competition. Scores are always lower. You don't get too many huge blowouts.
It'd be very rare, wouldn't it? Like big blowouts in I know just on gut feel years and years, like it's always tighter early on in the competition. Teams are pretty close to full strength. You've done a bit of the digging. Yeah. There wouldn't be many blowouts.
I went through a couple of key players and looked at their first round, not their first 4 games of the season, their first round 1 to 4, and went through those teams and had a look at key players and how their SuperCoach scores were. They're all down on averages. Yeah. All down on season averages. And obviously those games are taking into their season average as well. So, the outlier was Nico Hines, for example, last year. His first 4 games, he averaged 100 odd, but his first game was in round 4. Yeah. So that already that defensive mindset has already started to ease off. So I don't hate the idea of a VC, like a forward guy over there, but mate, I would not even be considering your Tedescos, your Walkers, your Latrells, your Turbos of the world over there. I'm going to wait till they get home.
Yeah, no, I'm not keen on them either. I said maybe a few forwards from those sides, but we'll get into draws throughout the preseason. But I know the Broncos in particular have a really tough start to the season, so that makes them even tougher prospects. I said maybe a couple of forwards, but attacking wise, early instinct says and early thoughts are that trying to avoid those teams where possible.
Yeah. I think as well worth noting to the NRL's credit, the teams in Vegas, I think they all play each other round 2 and some of them play each other in round 3 as well.
Good from them.
So a little bit of an advantage that you're not coming up against Aussie teams. But you take Brisbane, for example, I think they go Roosters, South Sydney,
Panthers,
Penrith.
Yeah.
Very tough.
Yeah.
Fucking brutal. But if you were playing Penrith week 2 coming off a trip to Vegas, that'd be very tough. At least you're playing another Vegas team. Anything else heading into 2024 you've taken from 2023?
Not, what do we got? Probably not as much taken from last year, but approach-wise to 2024, I just want to play, you mentioned before about finding that balance between a conservative approach and an aggressive approach. Yep. I'm just going to try play a little more aggressively this year. And when I say that, I mean taking some more probably calculated gambles. As I said, not a terrific season last year, but results year on year, last 5-6 years or whatever it's been, have been solid. So I'm not going to throw my approach out due to one year that was down in ranking a little bit. But I just want to be a little bit more aggressive. And by that, I mean, I always back my instincts 100% in NRL SuperCoach, and I try not to take too much in from other views and whatnot. I'll back my gut and go with it. But I don't always do it necessarily in an aggressive manner. Yeah. So I almost want to be like looking at things like a captaincy during a week, and it might be a player who's 90% skippered. And then I go, all right, well, I've got this bloke in my team who's at 5% captaincy. And I weigh up their matches and go, I think the bloke at 5% is every chance to outscore him. I rank their fixtures similar, their output, etc. In the past, maybe I've gone, just play safe, don't risk the other bloke getting 180 and just getting left behind. Back myself, go the left field skipper and let it run, because I think you can get so much out of that and going the occasional I've never shied away from going a super pod at 5% or 10%, whatever it might be. But in the back of your mind, there's always that, well, what if you get hurt or something goes wrong? I kind of want to go, no, particularly an attacking upside player, and go, the base is solid and they can belt out a 150 plus on any given day. I want to blow teams out of the park and take that gamble. As I said, calculated. I'm not going to do it because a bloke can score 3 or 4 tries in a good fixture on the end of a good back line. But if they've got a decent base, they've got some decent fixtures, and just go for it. Like I said, I'm not sitting there saying I'm going to start the season with 10 plays at 3% ownership of my team, but just be a little bit more aggressive.
This really excites me. I'm excited to see, because like the Tim Williams that I know is obviously a massive fucking coward who just never backs himself, never has a red hot crack. So I'm really excited to see how this goes.
Yeah, could be all talk as well, mate.
I didn't want to say it.
Could get to round 1. I've just got every top owned player.
I think Safety Sam returns in round 1, but we'll see. I'm here. I'm all for you rolling the dice a little bit this year. But you're right, mate. Like I don't like to say it about you too often, but last year was a really bad year for you. You finished 4,000.
Conservative,
it works.
And that's what I mean. Conservative works.
Yeah.
So I'm like, why would I stray too far away from what's worked for a long time? I'm not going to, but a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, for sure. 45 grand's overrated anyway.
Heaps overrated.
Let's move to eye catchers. So some guys that have caught your eye. Do you want me to kick off with some, or you want to run away?
Go one for one.
One guy that I absolutely love everything about this guy. I've spoken about him a lot. I think he's sitting out there on the lounge waiting patiently for me to return. Seo Wong. I am very excited about him, mate. And he is a guy that I think has just got so much untapped potential. 18 months ago, I said he was a forward you could build an entire pack around over a decade, and I stand by it. And I think you saw finals time last year, some of the shit he did on the biggest stages under the brightest lights when the Roosters needed him to stand up. He was tremendous. He is, I think, the closest thing that we have seen to Sonny Bill since Sonny Bill. I'm huge on him.
It was a big rap, but then at the end, Sonny Bill, bang. Are you...
Closest thing we've seen. I think the way that he moves, the way that he offloads, the way that he carries, he just reminds me so much of Sonny.
Are you expecting him to come in and play an 80-minute edge back row role?
I'm hoping he does, but I'm also more than willing to cop that I'm biased on this kid, 100%. You got to remember that within that squad, there is a Kangaroos back rower in Angus Crichton. If we see the best out of Angus Crichton, I think Angus Crichton has the runs on the board to get it. I think Nat Butcher is reasonably safe. I think he will be there. I think he's just done a job for the last few years. Stili Tupouniua's there as well. Who
good for round 1?
What's that?
Is he good for round 1?
I believe so. Yeah. And I sort of thought Stili Tupouniua probably wouldn't be at the club for much longer just because of how much talent they have in the back row. He re-signed for 2 years the other day.
Right.
Which sort of blew me away. Yeah, I don't know how it all plays out, but I think Wong is the guy with the highest ceiling there.
462K, price is terrific. Early look is that the not like a ton of value across the game early on. Cheapies, I think we say this every preseason this far out that we're lacking a few cheapies here and there, and it always changes once the trials are done, once the round 1 teams come out. Back row looks a place to me where there's a fair bit of mid-range value, and Wong is one that's definitely on the radar, especially if he can land that 80-minute role on the edge.
For sure. I think this year, especially in the 2 RFs, as you said, mate, a lot of mid-rangers. I think this is going to really suit a lot of experienced super coaches. I think this is going to be a really tough year to come in for your first season of Supercoach, because you're going to, I think that we're all going to sort of feel like we're not making a heap of money, and you're going to feel like you're the only one that's in that boat. But I think everyone's going to be in a very similar boat.
Yeah, it is. It is. And as I said, so much is going to change between now and round 0. Can be tough getting used to saying that.
It's heaps tough, yeah.
In round 0. But the good thing about this, without if there's not a ton of cheapies and there's no standouts, there are a few gun players who are very, very high prices. Ponga, Hines, Cleary. No, we can't have everyone. hopefully lead to some relatively diverse teams to start the season.
Yeah.
Which is so exciting for SuperCoach because we don't want to all start the year with the same 25-man squad.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping there's a bit of diversity.
And I think that at the moment it doesn't feel like there's many cheapies, but I think by the time we get there, you know, if we can get a Tallis Duncan out of South Sydney, if we can get one or two out of the Raiders, which fucking surely we've got to get at least one out of the Raiders. Big worry there is Seb Chris returns in round 4, so Ricky Stewart could dry fist all of us in the most Ricky Stewart fashion of all fucking time. The Broncos, we will get a forward out of there. Tigers, hopefully we get a halfback or a 5'8" that sort of emerges there. So I think that when we, and then, mate, there's always curly ones thrown in there. There's always like I remember it coming into the preseason last year, like I was talking about Jackson Ford, but I didn't think he'd land an 80-minute edge.
Yeah.
All of a sudden we get to week 2 and we're going, fuck, Jackson Ford, how good. Like there will be guys that will emerge. I mean, you know, a ball hasn't been kicked in a trial yet. We will have injuries. We will have there will be so many things that do emerge. And when I have a look through those, you know, the depth of each position, fuck, there's some talented blokes sitting on the fringes that if they do get in, we're going to be flying. So a lot will change. Wong's my first guy I had on my list, mate. Who have you got?
Mate, a bloke that I know you're pretty keen on, and I'm pretty happy to say my first picked player this year, Sean Lane.
Yeah.
Starts the year priced at $446,000, $446K, I should say. 10 games last year, averaged 61 minutes, an injury-plagued year, averaged 44 points. The year prior, in 77 minutes per game, averaged 69 points per game. That was a breakout year for him, that 2022, where it was just outstanding. Such an important piece of that Parramatta puzzle. Back forming that combination with Dylan Brown full-time this year. I expect an 80-minute edge back row role, heaps of attacking upside, straight into my team.
Yep, and I think he should come straight in with Dill Brown for me. I'll be having both of them in my side.
Jeez, you love a combination.
I love a combo. Yeah, I think half back rower, if you're going to back a back rower in to do well, if you're going to back a back rower like Sean Lane with attacking upside, why not go Dill Brown?
He's so cheap. Are you thinking Dill Brown at $780K to start at 5'8"?
I'm not thinking he's locked in. I will have Dill Brown. Assuming Sean Lane starts on the left edge, which I think it's pretty safe to say, I will have both of them. You look at Sean Lane, as you said, 69 average in 2022. Yeah, he scored a heap of tries that year. He's fucking 8'7". He's going to score tries. Yeah. It's going to happen. He's got attacking upside. He's coming back from injury. I hear all this shit from people. Let's say he is 13 points below his average from 2022, which is a pretty big jump down. It still puts him at like a 55 average base with a price at 43. It's huge.
Barring injury, I do not see how you go wrong.
Yeah, I think it's a slam dunk, this one.
Absolute worst case, he somehow doesn't make money. He's not going to lose money.
Yeah.
So safe.
Yeah, and you get the great 5'8" there. I think Sean Lane's close to an automatic. Let's talk about a guy out of the Canterbury Bulldogs that I think we both think is going to be very interesting. Joshy Curran, heading over from the New Zealand Warriors, a former Wyong Kangaroo, moved over to New Zealand. I said it for the last 2 years. I don't understand why Josh Curran didn't play more footy over there. It almost looked like a personality clash or something to me. There had to be more to that because he was consistently almost better than the guys he always came in for, in my opinion. He arrives at Canterbury, who I'm still waiting for Gus to ring me if I want to be a middle forward over there. They are lacking plenty. If he's not 13, I'll give it away.
Yeah, they're so short on middles. They've had like a well-publicised massive drive in the off-season to try and find middles. They're just not available. They're not out there. Missed out on Fanua Blake for 2025. Obviously not going to impact this season, but Josh Curran at $421K to start the season. He's a great price. So much attacking upside. He's a good worker. Trials will be a key watch. Round one team will be a key watch, in particular the bench, even if he is named to start, depending on which way they want to go with that. But we know if the minutes are there, he's a big option. And the other thing with Curran, so good on the edge, solid in the middle. The Dogs need middles, so that's where he probably plays. Every chance he starts at lock in round one. You know, if there is an injury to an edge, he could all of a sudden become an 80-minute edge back rower at any point. Very keen.
Mate, if we get to round 1 and he's named on the bench, I think I'm still going to have him in my time side just because I know how good he is and I know it's a matter of time until he gets there.
He'll need to be starting for me. He's a good price, but there's also, I look a lot into history, and when things don't add up with players, and this is not a knock on Josh Curran as such, but we sat there for so long on why is Curran not playing more minutes? Why isn't Curran not playing more minutes? And maybe that was just a preference for the Warriors, but he was struggling to make their 17 at times. So while I'm with you and I have high expectations for him, and I think he probably starts round 1 at lock, probably be in my SuperCoach team. If he's not named to start and he's playing off the bench, I'll be holding off.
See him round 1, Josh. Thanks for joining the team, brother. Cannot wait to have you on board this year. Mate, another guy that I'm very interested in, which I think might be a little bit of a pod play this year to start, mate, this Terrell May at the Sydney Roosters, I just love everything about him. His minutes a worry. Fucking oath, it's a worry. It is a huge concern. His minutes keep me awake at night. But I look at his stats from last year and I look at how he performed in those big games of the Sydney Roosters. The Roosters got to the finals. They had JWH and Lindsay Collins. Terrell May was the guy they were looking to. He was the guy they were relying on through the middle. I said pre-show to you, I wish he would stop telling everyone that he wants to leave and he wants to go anywhere else, but you can't win them all. Terrell May, in games where he played 40 minutes plus, he averaged 58 last season. And a lot of those games are 41, 42-minute games as well. I am a huge, huge fan, and he's a guy that I will seriously consider starting with. I think that we'll talk about Spencer Leniu soon. I think people are talking about the wrong Roosters front row.
Yeah, look, I certainly prefer May to Spencer Leniu.
Yeah.
Leniu for starters. Can't wait to see him at the Roosters, but for years and years at the Panthers, he's had all his success. Ivan Cleary has been so reluctant to play in bigger minutes. Even when people have been out through origin period, through injuries, all sorts of things, he has remained an explosive bench option in 35 to 40 minutes max. That's his style. He's an explosive bench player. He comes on, he changes the game. I don't think that'll change massively at the Roosters, maybe a little bit, but if it does, might be by like 5 minutes. I don't see how too much changes. Terrell May, round 27 last season, 65 points, 51 minutes, 61 in base. How many minutes is he going to get this year? We do not know. Played 15 games. He starts this season at $430K, so a really good price. Another massive one on round 1 team lineup, what it looks like. He scored at 1.27 points per minute last year, which is outstanding in 33 minutes per game. So he'd probably need to get to a minimum 40 minutes per game, ideally 45 per game to make it worthwhile.
I mean, ideally he gets 80. It'd be nice if you're listening, Trent Robinson.
That'd be wonderful.
Which I'm sure you are.
Geez, he'd score all right.
He would go well.
So, yeah, look, I'm interested in him. I'm not going out of my way to say I'd be on a round 1 team because I don't know at this stage. There's a lot to play out. But as you alluded to, just minutes are the issue because how many more than 33 from last year is he going to get?
Yeah, and that's the big worry with the Roosters that, and, you know, I see some people say, oh, yeah, but they'll only have 3 forwards on their bench. It's like, sure, but when Connor Smith or Sandon Smith, Connor Smith, when Connor Watson or Sandon Smith come onto the field, Cheese comes off and he turns into a middle forward as well. So it's not really a 3-forward bench at the end of the day. It's 4 forwards, realistically. But I just think Terrell May is just going to be so important to this side. I'm huge on him. From Terrell May to Taylor May, I love him at CTW this year. It's a Mayathon.
Coming back from a lengthy injury layoff. What's he
Well, he's coming back off the lengthiest layoff anyone's ever had, pretty much. I look at him, and he was obviously one of the guys that I was very high on before he came into first grade. 2022, he averaged 64 points that season. He's priced at about a 40-point average this year. And you know what? Maybe he doesn't average 64. Probably doesn't coming off injury. It's a good point. Let's say he drops that by 8 and averages 56 in that Penrith side. I mean, even if his output slows down a little bit, he's still going to be scoring tries in that side. I really like him heading into this season. And if he was, you know, just coming up on the 9-month period post his ACL and all that, it's been a long time, which I think matters. And, mate, over the last 5 years, name me a club that has brought players back from injury better than the Penrith Panthers.
So, sorry, we're thinking starts left centre?
I don't know. That's the other thing that we need. I reckon he's every chance to start right centre. There's Isaac Tungo and him that'll play in the centre spots. That's assuming they don't go Peachy or Alamotti, which I don't believe they will. I think May will be in front of both of those guys. I think it's very evident just when you eyeball Taylor May in training photos and everything, he's got bigger. I think he's preparing to play centre this year.
Yeah, well, it'll be Taruva and Toto, and then Taylor May.
You would assume so, but I mean, like, Taruva's been fantastic. He's a very good player, but fucking Taylor May had that spot locked down before then too. I think it makes more sense to move Taylor May to the centres, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I think Taylor May is a certainty to be in that starting side.
But those four will be there.
Those four will be there, yes. So wherever that might be. Isaac Tungo played a little bit of right centre as we got to the end of last season, obviously. But, I mean, he traditionally is a left centre, has been a left side player coming through the juniors and everything. I wouldn't be surprised at all. If Taylor May lines up at right centre outside Nathan Cleary, thanks for coming.
Yeah. I don't mind him either way. Another one, look, he said it's been a massive layoff, so he'll be right, he'll be good to go. He's in a gun team. He gets a massive price reduction having not played last season. If he plays on the wing and Taruva goes to centre, which I feel like 12 months ago was initially the plan.
I wouldn't rule it out. Yep.
Yeah, it was initially the plan for life after the Critter. Straight in my team on the wing for the Panthers. At centre, very interested, but a lot of appeal goes away for me.
Yeah, it doesn't for me because I know how he plays.
Yeah.
His base stats won't drop. He'll still do a stack of work there for me. So I'm very confident on him. We'll see how it plays out. Obviously, at the end of the day, he is a guy coming back from injury. Need to watch him in trials, but I think there's every chance I end up with two Mays.
Specifically is where the issue lies, and the numbers around, was it probably 12 months ago now? It might have been the start of last season, and NRL Physio threw something out about there'd been like one player in 4 or 5 years, I'm trying to remember what it was, who'd come back from an ACL injury and bettered their average from when they left. And I think it was Luke Keary one year or something, so a largely relevant player. Not saying he can't and not saying he won't, but it's a pretty damning stat.
Yeah, it is. But I also think that people look too far into that stat. I'm not telling you he's going to average more. I'm telling you he's going to average less.
Yeah.
But Price today, 40 average. If he averages 10 less than what he did in his first season in the NRL, it's still a 54 average.
Yeah.
Same as Sean Lane.
With upside.
With upside, 100%. In the best team we've ever fucking seen. I think people get too carried away with that stat that guys are returning from injury. They go, can't go near him, can't do it. It's like, well, if they're priced low enough, there is still a lot to gain there.
Yeah, yeah.
Heaps to gain there. And yes, for that stat that Physio has, and I love Phys and I agree with everything he says pretty much, Taylor May, if this year he averages 63, that'll make you 250K and the stat will still work next year and we say, oh, he averaged less than the year before.
That's big from you calling Phys a fraud.
Fuck that guy. No, I love Physio. Shout out to you, Brian. I just think sometimes, and I see it in my comments all the time when I'm talking about these sort of guys that are coming back from injury that are lower price, people go, oh, they're not going to be as good as they were. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
But they'll still be fucking good.
But the key to Taylor May is he didn't play last year. So he's come back from injury, but he gets the massive price reduction.
Yes,
There are players who are coming back from injury, but they played, I think it's below 6 games or below 8 games, whatever they get the reduction. They might have played 10. They don't get a reduction. He's got a big reduction. So
he's got it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. You got any other eye catchers?
Not an eye. No, she is an eye catcher. Morgan Smithies at the Raiders. Possibly the number one preseason watch in terms of Supercoach because he's priced at $345K, which is very cheap for a bloke with an enormous motor.
Yep.
What role is he going to play at the Raiders? I expect him, provided he gets through the trials okay, which I'm sure he does, to start for the Raiders. But then it's what minutes is he going to play? You've got more to say because you've watched a shit ton of his highlights recently. I don't expect the world from him. I don't expect him to churn out attacking stats. But if he can get 60 to 65 minutes minimum, big work rate. He will tackle all day. He will run all day. Maybe there's a slight concern over if he becomes that ball-playing lock for the Raiders and he doesn't run as much. But if he does do that, he probably plays bigger minutes, so it kind of offsets it. At the price, 2RF, very keen on him. If he looks underwhelming in the trials, I'll be happy to leave him out. But another one where I don't see where you go too far wrong at that price if he's starting and getting the minutes.
Yeah, I don't think you can go too wrong, but he has a few red flags for me. As you said, I've watched a heap of his stuff over the last few weeks, just trying to get a gauge on him. He looks like a very up and down footballer to me. I watched many highlights. I'm yet to see a tackle break or an offload, but he gets through a fuckload of work.
Hayden Tolman, absolute stalwart, mate. He did some good job for Supercoaches over the years.
For sure. My big worry is Corey Hawes was not going to be there for the first 3 weeks. He's suspended. My worry is that we get 3 weeks in and this fella, and you know what? If he base stats 50, unreal. Fantastic. How much money is he going to make if he comes back and then plays less minutes once Corey Hawes was in there? That's my worry. What I see Smithies as is a very good opportunity to watch him for the first 3 weeks, and I'm going to have 4 or 5 mid-range 2RFs, right? Are they all going to Are they all going to be successful? Fuck no. I think he will be a very good downgrade option come week 3 or so. If we have a good idea of what his role is going to be, hopefully you'll be able to get a bit of intel from the Canberra Raiders. I don't think I start with him, but I think one of my 2RFs that we all pick is certainty to shit the bed and not too well for us. I reckon he'll be a nice little downgrade option.
Yeah, and that's where it's interesting because, as I mentioned before, 2RF seems like a bit of a hot spot to start the season. How are we going to fit everyone in? But I'm definitely interested at this stage. Could change. It does reek of, as you said, making 60 to 70K, getting a tick over 400K and just plotting and you're going, ugh, what have I achieved from this?
Yeah.
I can see that happening. So big trial watch.
Yeah, huge trial watch. Yep, for sure. And to be fair, every player, which isn't a heap of them to be fair, but the players I've spoken to that have played with him in England, they all seem to love him.
Everyone raps him galore.
Raps him. Yeah. So I'm just going off the eye test, what I'd seen. If I hadn't heard that from players, I would be a lot harsher.
And he's obviously not an eye test player where you go, he's not busting tackles, he's not offloading, which is what we look for in Supercoach, to be fair. Very different to what,
which is very different NRL.
To what an NRL player. However, they do all seem to say that he's got this enormous motor, he's got a ton of heart, he's an ultra competitor, this real pommy sort of James Graham type mould, Gareth Ellis who just go and go and go, and that can lead to some big base stats. So at the price, if it was 400K, I'd be like, yeah, but 345, it's very cheap.
Yeah, it is very cheap. Yeah, and you look at your side, you're going to use 2 of your 9 only hookers that you've got in your squad. So it'll be a 3-forward bench, but the forward pack is very strong as well. Zach Hosking joining the other day as well. So much to look at with the Canberra Raiders in the preseason. And I do not want to watch them any more than I have to, which is upsetting me greatly. Mate, my last eye catcher, and this will probably sound stupid to people, but fuck, Kalen Ponga. Bro, last year, when playing fullback, he averaged 105. He could be a borderline fucking cash cow, KP. The other thing I love about KP is that night side, it hasn't changed. Spine's the same. The only thing that has changed for him is that Lachlan Fitzgibbon goes away on that edge. I believe he'll have Tyson Frizzell. That's an uptick for him, in my opinion. The only other change is that Dom Young isn't on the right edge, and the reality is that the vast majority of work the KP does is on the left side. I think KP absolutely explodes again this year. He'd be my red-hot favourite for a back-to-back Dally M if he stays conscious.
Always a big factor in winning Dally M's.
Yeah.
Then again, last year it wasn't, was it? Did anyway.
He was conscious. He was unconscious for half the year. He wasn't even in the country for half the year.
Didn't always kick goals last year either. So you can add that to it as well. As you said, like if Dom Young leaves from the right edge, so that edge weakens a little bit. That left edge, we had a bit of a chat about on the bloke potty on Monday, but Marju, Best, if Frizzell ends up on that left edge as well, it is like, where's all the ball going to go?
Yeah.
It's going to go to the left edge. It's Ponga's stronger edge, I should say. He's going to be hard to ignore. I don't know if I could sit there for the first month of the season and have my 2024 season ruined by Kalen Ponga within a month after he destroyed it last year. So just for that reason, I almost nearly have to start with him.
Since goal kicking at the Newcastle Knights, it was the last 8 or 9 games of the season, he scored below 90 once.
Are you do you currently have KP, Cleary, Nico in your team?
Yep. Now, and it's a little bit hypocritical because I am very loud on.
You're a dog, we know that.
Yeah, I'm a out and out dog.
Established that a long time ago.
I am very loud on that these guys, they probably won't have their highest scores to start the season. But once again, they are 3 guys that I know I'm going to want. They're 3 guys that I know I'm going to want for the entire season, and I am happy to start with them and leave them there for the year.
Yeah, there's 2 things about that, and it's starting with top dollar players who probably aren't going to make cash. I said Ponga, on last year's numbers that you just read out, he could make cash.
Yep.
Nico, Cleary, their price at their peak, they could go up a bit. Like, we know they've got it in them, but realistically, you're paying top dollar for them. The difference about paying for these guys is, as opposed to particularly forwards and other players in the game, they've got this enormous upside where they've got their 150 pluses in them. Captains, if they've got this golden matchup and they're flying and you captain them for one of their 150s or 180s, whatever it might be, enormous benefit. So, yeah, Ponga's, it's going to be a fun position to talk about throughout the preseason fullback because there are a lot of great options, but KP, he's a freak.
What about the Rook over here making some fucking noise?
Rook, yeah, a little bit of...
Didn't get attention for 10 seconds and start throwing things around.
I know. I just... Confident. Yeah.
Reminds me a bit of you, actually.
Oh.
Camera wasn't on you for a few seconds, do something rogue, buy KP for $1 million, get the attention back on you.
I just cough anytime I want the camera.
Loves the camera.
It's not actually an issue. I just want the camera.
Yeah, KP. Yeah, I am starting with KP and a couple of those big dogs. And I've managed to do it in a way where I've got money where I could. You know, the other thing I think with those halfbacks, especially in KP as well, like I just look at halfback and I've got people messaging me going, I'm going to go cheap in Aiden Caesar. And I'm like, ugh. Mad. Like, there's every chance that doesn't work for you. Like,
when he has the buy round 1 and then doesn't get picked for round 2.
Doesn't get picked, yeah. Like, or like, there's just so many. I don't think at the moment there are not genuine cheapies in those spots that I think you can move to get those guys. Jules, we are lacking a lot. I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be sitting there in round 5 and 6 going, holy fuck, I've made 8 cents on Bud Sullivan and Aiden Caesar, and now I can't get to the superstar scoring 150 every week.
Exclusive on the Beers and Breakevens podcast. You actually go up in cents this year. They've really fine-tuned it themselves over at SuperCoach HQ.
Oh, I can see it playing out like that, and I want to avoid it, and I want to have there 3 to 4 trades that I want to have at the end of the year.
On the fullback spot, I just want to touch on one other player just because I've had mixed preseason thoughts about him. Coming into the year, I was so keen to pay out for Reece Walsh because he's just a freak, and I think he'll do a Ponga because he's getting more experience in the game. He's getting more confident. He's getting better and better and better. You know, he had a few like 40s in his game last year. The games that he did, like he was an inch away from that 40 being 120. And I'm like, screw it. He's a big prize. People might not pay out for him because of Ponga, Cleary, Hines, etc. And then I looked into it and I was like, the Vegas impact, the smaller field, round 1, Broncos open the season with Roosters, Bunnies, Panthers, Cowboys, Storm, Dolphins, who we know the Dolphins will get up for that game. And I just went, I wanted him so bad. I think we're going to have to pot him with all those factors.
If I was a betting man, I would say you still end up with him. You love Reece Walsh. So you love Reece Walsh more than Reece Walsh loves Reece Walsh, which is wild.
It's a big call, probably valid.
Huge call.
So it's possible. I don't think it will happen because of Vegas. I'm also terrified as to what the players are going to get up to in Vegas and who is going to be the first one to be barred for 3 games for carrying on like a pork chop.
Yeah, you probably won't get many girls over there too.
No, I don't reckon. No. So, I'm going cold on Reece Walsh, but a nice little, hopefully, round 6-7 target.
Reece Walsh is still a guy for me. Last year when he was really cheap at that point, we're able to bring him in. I was on board, but I just don't look at him the same as Hines, Cleary, KP, Turbo. Maybe I'm wrong, but I also, this Broncos team, I think I'm not sure how it's going to go for Brisbane. I think they'll be a top 4 side, but, mate, history tells us with a young team, you lose a grand final, it can be costly at times. I mean, you have a look at, the last 2 teams to be in a grand final before Brisbane were Parramatta and South Sydney. Both missed the fucking finals this year. Penrith make staying at the top look easy. Yeah. It's not.
I think everything that you've just said is just a ploy to appeal to my competitive side to make me go, screw you, I'm getting Reece Walsh.
Oh, I'd love to say, I would be happy for you to take him.
I think Reece Walsh, conservative me of 2023 would have said averages 90 plus this year. I think he can average 95 plus this year. That being said, I think the damage is probably done from round 6 onwards.
Yep, I don't think he averages over 90. I'm very confident saying that. I think he'll be well below that. Mate, honestly, when I look at his games last year, he doesn't have a single game where he didn't play 80 minutes. So there's no reduced scores or anything in there. Could last year have gone any better for the Brisbane Broncos?
Probably not.
He averaged 80.
Yes, but he's also getting substantially better with every game of football that he plays. He's what, 21, 22 years old or something?
Yep.
I just think he's getting better and better and better.
He'd want to be. His last 5 games, he's base started 18, 13, 16, 17, 19.
Scott Drinkwater based about 6 per game and averaged about
Which
80.
is why I don't have Scott Drinkwater in that class either, though.
Yeah.
That's my worry, that when he goes low, he goes low. And yeah, you know what? You have a look in his last 5 or 6 weeks, he had 111, 123, 141, which I can get from some of these other absolute superstars as well, but they're not going to throw me out 22, 44, 33, 38, 23. That's my worry with Reece Walsh.
Other blokes that I'll name some stats from bloke. What are we? What was the year? 2022.
Yep.
Scores of 44, 9, 43, 35, 31, 50, 53. Top score of 86. His name was Kalen Ponga, and he was older than Reece Walsh at the time, more settled, more experienced. Reece Walsh is only getting better, just like Kalen Ponga did.
Yep. If Reece Walsh gains the goal kicking, I'm happy to have that conversation. I think his floor is too low for me. In a young side who's dealing with a lot of shit, they just let Kurt Capewell walk out the door too, which I think is a very interesting move, losing experience.
I'm not against the Broncos' regression either. I just think Walsh is going from strength to strength.
He is, yeah. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. He is going from strength to strength. I look at games here where he's had creative stats 44 and he had 38 in evading stats and he doesn't score 100. Like, he just has to do so much to score for me. Whereas I find these other guys, they just stack up points without doing fuck all, which maybe it's a Supercoach thing. I don't care, but it's just the reality of it.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm pretty content on not going, despite all that, not going draw Vegas.
Yeah.
He's a big prize. So there are enough red flags there and he does have a low score on him.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's worth it. But from like round 5, 6, lock and load.
And where I haven't looked at their draw yet, but there will be a point this year where Brisbane play St. George, the Titans. I don't want to offend anyone here, but 4 or 5 teams that are battling in a row, and then Reece Walsh becomes appealing.
They go from round 6. They go Dolphins, Raiders, Tigers. It's a pretty tough opening of the season because even then they go into Roosters, Para, Manly. God knows what they're going to throw up. It's a pretty tough opening to the year. Yeah,
it's tough. Yeah. All right. Anyone else for that category, mate?
Pretty covered, mate.
Pretty covered. All right, let's move on to some guys that we potentially think are getting a little bit too much hype this preseason. Now, we will obviously start this by saying Tim's been knee-deep in BBL for the last few weeks, so he probably hasn't seen as many of your teams and what other people are selecting and stuff. I've been having a pretty deep look into it. And there's a number of guys that I think are in too many teams, and I'm keen to get your take on them.
Yeah, I've looked at my team, and I've looked at player pricings and team structures. I haven't been looking at other people's teams. That starts this week.
First name that comes to mind for me that is wildly popular at the moment is Fletcher Baker. Signed with the Brisbane Broncos, coming from the Sydney Roosters. Paliasia is leaving, as is Tommy Flegler. There is opportunity there at the Brisbane Broncos. people are assuming Fletcher Baker's going to come in and play huge minutes. I think he's in the 17. I'm not convinced he's going to be this huge minute guy that people are expecting. There's other guys up there, Takura, the young front rower, who's as big as a fucking house. I am very excited to see him. And I think there's other guys up there like Corey Jensen, Jaden Hunt, that I personally think are a little bit more reliable than Fletcher Baker. Maybe my read on Fletcher Baker is horrible, but I'm not quite seeing it yet. What are your thoughts?
When I look at players moving clubs, particularly ones that come off the bench, and there's every chance that he plays off the bench for the Broncos, my eye goes straight to points per minute.
Yep.
And how many minutes they played. So he averaged 29 minutes per game. So immediately you're going, all right, he needs to be playing probably 10 minutes more to be worthwhile. If he increased to 35 minutes, I don't think that'd be enough. If you got an extra 10 minutes, I'm going, okay, we're like potential there. But when you're playing 29 minutes a game, I want a PPM, SuperCoach points scored per minute for any first timers out there. I want like 1.25, 1.3 points per minute. Fletcher Baker has 1.05 points per minute at the Roosters last year. The year prior was 1.09 points per minute. That was in 26 minutes per game. How it works is that I think every player of all time, can't imagine there'd be anyone who's gone against this, but when you go up in minutes as like a bench forward, your PPM drops. Yep. So if he goes up to 40, that 1.05 could easily be won. There might be the odd exception where players get better, they get a license to offload, things change. They might jag 2 or 3 tries early in the year as a front row or an edge back row or whatever. But PPM it's your core of it. That's your base. That's what you can expect. Anything additional, sweet. I'm not keen.
Yeah, doesn't do it for me. I think there's also a very good possibility they move Pat Carrigan into the front row and all your plans are thrown out the window in a heartbeat.
And that's the thing with the Broncos, with Pat Carrigan, Payne Haas, they have big minute middles.
Yep.
They don't have, like, even you look at the team like the Panthers where there's some decent minutes to go around bench players, like Fisher Harris, Leota, they'll only play their 45 to 50 per game. They can play more, but they choose not to.
Yeah.
The Broncos have and are willing to play these middle forwards big minutes. Always have.
Yep. Completely agree. I'm far from sold. We'll watch him in trials and whatnot, see how it all lines up. We'll know early by team list. Hopefully, if he's starting, different conversation. If he's on the bench for Brisbane, no thanks from me.
Yeah.
Mate, Viliami Kikau, a guy with obviously huge upside. Wasn't that long ago he was the most damaging edge back rower in rugby league. Moved to the Canterbury Bulldogs, had an injury-affected season last year. Coming in reasonably cheap this year, good little value there. A lot of people have got him in. I don't like the move. I think that even when Viliami Kikau was at his absolute best and he was dominating on the left edge in the best team in the competition that essentially built their entire left edge attack around him. He was a back rower that was sweeping out the back of his centre. He averaged 65 and had 34 base stats. Scored, by look of it here, 8 or 9 tries that season. He was getting a try assist every week because he was kind of playing second row forward / fullback because Dylan Edwards would never play on that edge and he would go out the back of Isaac Tungo and Jerome Luai would just give him the pill. He averaged 65 that year, 35 in base. I'm far from convinced Canterbury have turned a corner yet. I'll happily fall on my very bloody sword if they have. But kick out for me, I think he's a bit of a trap. What do you reckon?
I'm interested. Far from sold. The preseason watch here is almost not even Viliami Kikau because I think he'll be fit as a fiddle. I'm thinking he'll have worked his ass off on it's a massively hyped signing at the Dogs and trying to play 9 games last season. I think he's going to want to come out making a big impression for the Doggies. I want to see what the Doggies look like because we don't know. Like, I'm expecting some significant improvement on last year. They still lack middles, which is a big question mark around them. Kikau's priced on a 45, sort of 46-point average or thereabouts. Years before that, 65, 59, 61, all in at the Penrith Panthers, where he was such a strike weapon. I do think at the Doggies, he's going to get a lot. I know he got a lot at Penrith and he was a focal point of their attack. That's not going to change at the Doggies because he's going to be a strike weapon for them. I feel like at the back end of last year, they started using him with that sweeping motion a little bit outside the back of the centre where he gets a lot of try assists.
Yep.
I think they'll learn to use him well. I just think at the price on that average, again, I don't think you go too far wrong with him. And we know he's got that try scoring upside, the attacking upside. He can set up tries as well. He can offload, bust tackles, do all that. I just need to see the doggies come out and show a bit in the preseason. And in particular, there's a lot of talk about Matty Burton. Does he play centre this year? Who's the half inside him going to be? It's probably going to be Burton. But if there's a new half in there, you're going to be worrying about combinations even more. So there's a few red flags, but for a bloke of his attacking upside at his price, I'm not ruling him out for round one in my side.
Yeah, not looking the goods for me. I get where you're coming from, though. You make some good points, but and as you said, like when you're at Penrith and you're the attacking strike weapon and you're getting 60% possession every game, flip it to 40, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's bloody tough out there. He's not one that's in my plans at the moment, but we'll see how it goes. Reece Robson, Hooker's fucked. Hooker's heaps fucked. I hate looking at Hooker at the moment. It is awful. It is Harry Grant, a set of stairs, Jeremy Marshall-King, then a cliff face to everyone else, and they're just hanging off the cliff at some point. Reece Robson, mate, we came into last year and everyone was hot and heavy for Reece Robson. Everyone had to have him. He was the big thing, and we sort of said, look, I don't believe he's a guy that's going to score 10 tries a season. We said we think he's more of a 50-point sort of guy, averaged 60-odd the year before, and last year was a huge drop. He was sort of exactly he's a gun hooker, but he's not a 10-try a season hooker like he had you all fooled in 2022.
Yeah.
I don't think you make any money here. I think he stays very similar. I'm expecting a bounce back from the Cowboys, but good God, like that draw couldn't have got better to start the season last year. And they were pretty fucking average.
Yes. Yeah, had a ton of tries back in 2022, scored 2 tries last season. I suppose the one way you look at it is it's almost the flip to last year, isn't it? Where we were saying he's not going to score the same amount of tries. He doesn't have that enormous attacking upside. The attacking upside and the attacking output was so little last year, like he's got to have more in him, doesn't he, than that. You know, I'd be willing to put a line through him if there was better options at hooker.
Yeah.
But it is a tough position, as you said. So he's a guy that I'm not looking like starting with at this stage. I said lots of things can change between now and round 0. But I don't know which way I'm going to go at hooker. Like, I would be happy to start with Harry Grant and just pay up for him. But if I'm going to slip Kalen Ponga in there, I haven't decided on Cleary and Hines yet where I'm going to go with that direction. But if you're having all 3 of those and then you add Harry Grant in at $750K, it's a lot of money. You then look at, it's easy to say, all right, cool, I'll get him in from round 1 and hold him for the season. I'd love to know the data in the stats around how many players we've started with in a year and not traded out by the end of the year. Because Harry Grant, you get to Origin period where he's going to play reduced minutes and there's every chance that he'll be a sell before Origin 1. So are you saving that trade? Possibly. I don't know.
And that's where, like, I said that about Hines, Cleary, these guys, and I double down on that. I'm confident of that because even if they do miss Origin games, I know there's every chance they come back and score 150. Hooker is in that position.
Yeah.
And I know that Harry Grant had a couple of high scores last year. You can't even tell me how many fucking minutes Harry Grant's going to play. Like he's not the safe guy he once was for me. And I'm leaning towards Jeremy Marshall-King as my hooker. Injury risk, HIA risk, 100%, no denying that. But hooker's grim. And I think you got to make some moves there. I would rather save 100, 150K on Harry Grant by going Jeremy Marshall-King and put that into getting a Cleary or Hines who I know can go 150 on any given week.
Yeah. Early look, I don't mind Marshall-King either. I think he'll play his big minutes at the Dolphins. He had so many just niggling injuries last year and mid-game injuries. So, again, look, I haven't gone through him in enormous detail, but there were so many games, particularly the back end of the year. Yeah, he left the game after 46 minutes of the game. He got injured 40 minutes earlier in the year. So he averaged 74 minutes per game, so not as bad as I thought, but this is a Dolphins outfit. That was in their first year. Jeremy Marshall-King is getting better and better and better at that hooking role. Keen.
Harry Grant averaged 73.5 last year. Jeremy Marshall-King in games where he played 70-plus minutes averaged 69.
Yeah.
He's very appealing. I find him far more appealing than Reece Robson. If we get to round 1 and Harrison Graham's on the bench or Cody Nicorima's 14, conversation changes 100%. But from my experience of watching the Dolphins, when Jeremy Marshall-King isn't on the field, they're a different footy side.
And you feel like Wayne knows that.
I think Wayne's well. I think Wayne is actually filthy that he has to rely on a hooker so much because he never has previously.
Yeah. So, look, who knows if cheapies emerge. What's to say there's not going to be a mid-range and a cheapie hooker in round 1 in our hooker slots? I don't know this early out.
Spencer Leniu. I think we feel similar here. You want to take it away?
Oh, Ivan Cleary's shown with Penrith in recent years, even when they've had, as I think I mentioned earlier, but players out to Origin, injuries, he's never wanted Leniu to play more than that 35 to sort of 40 minutes. He's never stepped up into that role. He's an explosive bench player. I just don't know he's going to get enough minutes additional at the Roosters to warrant any price increase, any major increase in scoring. I think unless there is a quote from Trent Robinson or Spencer Leniu in the preseason leading into that round 0 saying, I'm going to be a 45-minute or a 50-minute forward this year, I'm not keen and I'm happy to watch the first 2 rounds. If he does come out and plays big minutes, sweet, I'll get him round 3 because he's cheap. But I'm not keen on him to start.
Yeah. Rewind that 30 seconds, listen to what Tim said again because I backed that in totally. All right, Payne Haas. Our favourite February chat, Payne Haas. I feel exactly the same as I have for the last 3
Go back
years.
12 months and just rewind the last time we spoke about it.
Yeah. Neither of us had him. I didn't own him at all last year. Did you own him at any point?
I don't think so.
No. Didn't hurt us. He is the best front row forward in the game, 100%. But I really don't give a shit. I would rather have the guys that can go 150 plus. For me, I'm looking at Payne Haas going, geez, I can save 250K by going Terrell May, who I'm confident goes 50 plus every week at a reduced value. That's the avenue I'm looking down.
We just said we're not overly keen to pay up for Harry Grant at the same price, $750K, in a really difficult hooking position where no one's really standing out. Harry Grant can go 120, 130 plus. Like, he's got big scores in him. Where there's some decent front row forward options, $750K for Payne Haas. I mentioned it earlier in the show, but building team value is the core of how you make your round 1 decisions and how you're going to start with your team. And Payne Haas at $750K off a 74-point average last year, I just don't see how he goes up in value from there and increases your overall Supercoach squad value. We'll get into it in the next couple of episodes, but there will be some mid-ranges or some 400 or 500K forwards who are looking like increased minutes or better roles, whatever it might be, who might make you 150, 200K, and it's going to benefit you in the long run. I don't think Payne Haas, what was Payne Haas' top score last year? He didn't have a ton.
Didn't have a single ton.
He's not going to come out and go 140 and then back it up with another 120 and really hurt you as a non-owner. So he doesn't interest me. And then even like, again, their argument will be, I'll get him round 1, I'll keep him for the year. The reality, the chances of him being in your team from round 1 and being there all year are pretty slim.
Yeah.
Realistically, injuries happen, suspensions happen. He'll play big minutes for the Blues over Origin, so he could get rested, reduce minutes. No.
Yeah, hard pass from me. You have a look at his, as Timmy just said, he didn't score 100 last year, which are the scores that hurt you. From his 20 games, he went above 90 on 3 occasions.
And as you said, mate, there's every chance he's the top averaging front row in the game this season.
Yeah.
But he's not for my round 1 team.
Out of all the positions I want the top averaging player, front row forward is literally the last one. It's the one I care the least about.
Yeah.
And it's the one that neither of us had him last year. Didn't hurt either of us at any point. I literally never remember coming into the studio with you on a Wednesday morning going, fuck.
We didn't have Payne Haas.
We didn't have Payne Haas.
Yeah.
He got 80. Our front row forward got 55.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead, you're comparing your fullbacks and there's an 80-point difference between them some weeks. I don't understand why people rush to get him so heavily. Last one. Tom Trbojevic. I've seen him in a few teams. He's starting to pop up a little bit. Touch wood, I am completely wrong. He's the number one player that worries me going to Las Vegas on that field.
What is it, AstroTurf or something? What are they use? Synthetic
I don't know
turf?
what it is. I don't know what it is,
that
but
isn't good for knees.
I'm sure it just worries me. I don't think there's going to be as many points scored over in Vegas. I think that even Tommy, he didn't last year, to be fair, because they played Canterbury in that round one game where DCE scored a hat trick or whatever. If Ryan Pappenhausen is goal kicking, if we know he's goal kicking, and if we get to the trials and Ryan Pappenhausen somewhat represents Ryan Pappenhausen, I think he is the much better option than starting with Turbo.
Value-wise, Pappy for sure. There's a few enormous preseason watchers. How's Pappy going to come back?
Yep. Huge.
You nearly can't have an opinion on him until we see him play.
Yep.
Tommy Turbo, 833K off an 81-point average in a stacked fullback position where we both said we're pretty keen on Kalen Ponga. Injury. I mentioned I'm not looking too much into injury histories and injury concern this year. Tom Trbojevic is an exception because it's been an injury every single year.
I will say in defence of Tommy Turbo, it has been an injury every single year. At least last year for the first time it was a pec injury.
Yeah.
At least it wasn't lower body.
Yeah.
But we did get to round one, and when he was in space, he passed the ball instead of running.
Yeah.
So,
And Vegas factor.
Yeah.
Tough draw to start the year for them. They've got, I think, Bunnies, Roosters, Para or someone not overly tough. A tough enough draw. Going to Vegas. Injury history, a lot of red flags.
Yeah, I think with Manly as well, I have no idea how they're going to go next year. No idea whatsoever. But I do know that they're going to have a new 5'8", Luke Brooks. I know that Schuster's going to move. Sounds like Schuster's going to be on the edge. Sounds like Tommy Talau could start in the centres. Sounds like they could be running with two hookers for the first time in 4 or 5 years. A lot of changes there for Manly. I'm still not a huge Seabold guy. Yeah.
If he comes out in the first trial game for Manly, makes a bust and strides out to 100%, let's reassess.
I apologise. I take it all back and I buy him immediately. 100%.
But let's see that. Let's see that moment.
Early. Yeah.
Because he will make a break.
He will at some point, without a doubt. Yeah. Very, very interesting Turbo. I really do hope for the sake of all of us that Pappy is sweet. I think it'll just make life a billion times easier.
It's going to be so fun again this year, fullback.
Yeah. I reckon that people will ease on Turbo the closer we get to Vegas and everything, which could make him the best pod play imaginable at the same time.
Timmy.
But, wild. How good is it to have SuperCoach back?
Oh, so good. Geez, I missed it. It's been 1 hour since I checked my SuperCoach BBL side. I just,
Good
mate,
times.
it's very exciting to be back for a big 2024.
And starting next week, we'll start to go positional wise.
Yeah, I think that's the plan. We'll do. We'll go
sort of
position
doing
by,
this live, so brace yourself.
we're winging it a little bit.
Yeah.
Position by position each week. We'll throw in some good topics, a few little super pods.
Where do you want to start? Should we start at like hooker? Maybe hooker, front row forward.
Sounds good, mate. We can pot Payne Haas again.
Yeah. Yeah, we've taken some pot shots at a few of those guys this year. This week.
Some big boys as well.
Big boys. Yeah. All right. Call it a day.
Let's do it.
Cheers, guys, for tuning in once again. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe, comment, like, all the good stuff for us. That'll do us for this week, and we will see you next week. Position analysis kicking off Wednesday, 3 p.m, Beers and Breakevens. Plenty of big announcements coming back. I think we've actually got a cameo appearance from Matty the Waterboy next week. Yes. So Matty will be here. Very keen to get his thoughts on all of this. If you haven't looked at it much, I'd love to see how much Matty's looked at it.
Do we just delay the positions and just chat about the bunnies for an hour and a half?
Chat about the bunnies and the Tallis Duncan-a-thon. Heaps keen.
White Cam Murray's a must-have.
Oh, you too. Could you
I
imagine?
can tell you that.
Be a 2-hour app. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us once again. We'll see you next week on Beers and Breakevens.